Renewed shall be blade that was broken.
Lord of the Rings is a popular and highly acclaimed fantasy series by J.R.R. Tolkien that has captured readers' imaginations for decades. However, the books have also faced challenges and bans in some schools and libraries due to various concerns about their content. Some of the primary reasons why Lord of the Rings has faced challenges and bans include objections to the portrayal of occult and satanic themes.
I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve.
Concerns about the violence and war depicted throughout the books, complaints from religious groups, criticisms of the record of certain races and cultures, and some objections to the portrayal of female characters. In this video, we'll explore these reasons in detail, examining the criticisms and arguments on both sides of the debate, and ultimately seeking to understand why Lord of the Rings has faced challenges and bans in some contexts. Here are 5 reasons why Lord of the Rings has been banned.
Death is just another path. One that we all must take.
Number 1. Occult and satanic themes. The use of magic and references to dark forces in Lord of the Rings has been interpreted as promoting occult and satanic themes. Some critics have argued that the books could lead readers to explore or become interested in mysterious or satanic practices, which could harm their well-being. However, it's essential to note that magic in Lord of the Rings is not intended to promote or glorify dark forces. Instead, it is used as a literary device to create a rich and fantastical world different from our own. The book's magic is often portrayed as a double-edged sword, with characters weighing its costs and consequences.
You're late.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins.
Tolkien was a devout believer in the Catholic faith, and one can see the effect of his religious views in his writing. In addition, Tolkien was a prolific author who created the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He saw his work as investigating several Christian ideas and principles, including the struggle between good and evil, the concept of sacrifice, and the idea of redemption. Many people who defend the novels have pointed out that they're works of fiction and that readers can discriminate between fantasy and reality.
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
This is in reaction to the accusation that Lord of the Rings includes occult and demonic undertones. This is a standard line of defense that many people have employed. In addition, reading fantasy novels to children and young adults can benefit the development of those age groups' imaginations and their capacity to think critically. Number 2. Violence and war. The fact that Lord of the Rings depicts various acts of brutality and conflict is another reason why it has been criticized and banned in some places. Several images of wars and acts of violence throughout the narrative take place in a world currently at war. Some detractors believe that the violence is very detailed and could be upsetting to young people who read the book. They think youngsters exposed to such violence may become less sensitive and more aggressive or violent. On the other side, some who support the books maintain that there's a reason for the violence throughout the narrative. Tolkien himself had served in World War I, and those experiences significantly shaped his writing. The violence in the book is not gratuitous. Instead, it helps to emphasize the high stakes of the fight, as well as the courage and selflessness of the protagonists. In addition, the books have been commended for their examination of themes such as loyalty, friendship, and sacrifice, and their depiction of the emotional toll that war takes on characters. Ultimately, deciding to include or exclude Lord of the Rings from school curriculums or library collections due to its depictions of violence is a matter of individual judgment and interpretation. Some educators and parents may feel that the books are inappropriate for young readers. In contrast, others may see them as valuable tools for teaching about the realities of war and the importance of empathy and compassion. Number 3. Religious objections. There have been protests and calls for the Lord of the Rings series to be banned on religious grounds. It has been suggested by some religious groups.
In the way of fire, I can see him with my waking bleeding eyes.
that the books promote a worldview that is incompatible with their own beliefs, and therefore should not be read. For instance, several Christians have raised objections to the fact that the novels use magic, considering this to endorse witchcraft and the occult. Certain people have critiqued the representation of religion in the books because it is not sufficiently clear and does not effectively promote a moral message. Tolkien, on the other hand, was a practicing Catholic throughout his life, and his faith significantly impacted his writing. He viewed his work as investigating Christian concepts and principles, such as the conflict between good and evil,
But I can't carry you!
the idea of sacrifice, and the notion of redemption. Numerous defenders of the books argue that they can be seen as promoting Christian values, and that the use of magic is not intended to encourage occult practices, but rather to create a fantastical world. They also claim that magic is not meant to promote occult practices, but to create an imaginary world. In the end, whether or not a person believes they have the right to object to Lord of the Rings based on religious beliefs is a question of their interpretation and convictions. Some people may consider the books consistent with their religious beliefs, while others may consider them inconsistent with their faith and even destructive. Number 4. Racism and stereotyping. The portrayal of certain races and cultures in Lord of the Rings has been criticized as perpetuating negative stereotypes and promoting racism. For example, the orcs, depicted as savage and brutal, have been seen as embodying negative racial stereotypes. Additionally, some have criticized the portrayal of Easterlings and Haradrim,
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide.
who are depicted as dark-skinned and associated with the forces of evil. This has been seen as perpetuating negative stereotypes and promoting racism. However, defenders of the book argue that the races and cultures in Lord of the Rings are meant to be viewed as fictional,
The shadow, even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer.
and do not represent any real-world people or cultures. Furthermore, many point out that the story is set in a world at war, and that depicting certain races as evil or savage is meant to highlight the high stakes of the conflict. Additionally,
The shadow, even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer.
some have argued that Lord of the Rings can be read as a critique of racism and stereotyping, as it explores the consequences of judging others based on appearance or cultural differences. The decision to challenge or ban Lord of the Rings based on concerns about racism and stereotyping is a matter of interpretation and personal belief. Some may view the books as perpetuating negative stereotypes, while others may see them as a critique of such stereotypes, or as works of fiction that should be considered within their context.
Theoden King stands alone.
Number 5. Sexual content. Since Lord of the Rings has very little explicit material or sexually explicit stuff, the series has not received widespread criticism for its sexual nature. The central conflict of the books is an epic struggle between good and evil, and the growth of the characters' friendships, loyalties, and trust in one another is the primary themes explored in their interactions. On the other hand, there have been some criticisms about how female characters are portrayed in the works. The argument that female characters are frequently restricted to secondary parts and are not given as much agency or growth as male characters is made by certain critics. Others have attacked the books for their lack of diversity, pointing out that there aren't many characters who aren't white or male in the books. Concerns regarding sexual content are not a big issue concerning Lord of the Rings, but the representation of gender and diversity in the novels has been the topic of some criticism and debate. In general, issues about the sexual material are not significantly concerning in Lord of the Rings. In conclusion, Lord of the Rings has faced challenges and bans for a variety of reasons. Including objections to the portrayal of occult and satanic themes, concerns about the violence and war depicted throughout the books, complaints from religious groups, and criticisms of the image of certain races and cultures, and some objections to the portrayal of female characters. While these concerns and objections are valid and deserve to be taken seriously, it is essential to recognize the many positive qualities of the Lord of the Rings series, including its powerful storytelling, memorable characters, and timeless themes of loyalty, courage, and self-sacrifice. Ultimately, whether or not to read and enjoy Lord of the Rings is a matter of personal choice and should be guided by individual values and beliefs. However, it is essential to approach these debates with a broad mind and a willingness to engage in thoughtful and respectful discussions with those who may have different viewpoints. This is it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and also, subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. See you in the following video.